Hello again, this is UML Operator. All right, in the last session, we stepped through how the Sparx EAExample multiple order simulation activity diagrams, how they worked. And what we're going to do in this session is we're actually going to build these models from scratch. So what we're going to do is we're going to build a package called Demonstrate Order Processing Simulation, and in that package we are going to add a behavioral diagram activity with the same name. All right, that's going to be the same name of the diagram. Go ahead and hit OK, double click on it, and now we're in the work area for a blank activity diagram, a blank activity diagram. All right, the first thing we want to do is bring in an activity, drag and drop it in here. And we're going to call it multiple, I want to put a space, they didn't have a space, orders, and then I'm going to, because it remembers the last action, hold the control key, just click within the screen, I get another activity item, process, order. So I have two activities that we're going to use in this simulation. Okay, now over on the right side in the browser, we've got multiple orders element and we've got process order element. What we want to do is we want to create composite diagrams under these where our simulations are going to run. So how we do that is you right click on multiple orders, we go down here to new child diagram, add diagram. So it brings up this dialog box, UML behavior. We want an activity diagram, hit OK, and it added a blank diagram. We'll go ahead and close it to this element. Now how I get to that is I right click on this and I go to new child elements again, select composite diagram. I'm going to click on that and I want to be in the right folder, which is Demonstrate. I don't want to be here. Don't get confused. I want to be here, and we're going to hit OK. Now I've got the infinity sign or horizontal 8, and I can double click on this, and I immediately get to this diagram where we're going to build a simulation. We're going to rinse and repeat for process order. I'm going to right click on this. I'm going to new child diagram, add a diagram, accept the name. It remembers what diagram we had chosen before. I'm going to hit OK, and now I've got a blank process order. Go ahead and close that, and we want to link this element to that in a composite diagram. So we're going to right click on this, new child diagram, select composite diagram, and we want under process order, we want this diagram, hit OK. Right, let's test it. Yep, we're getting to that diagram. All right, so now let's build our first simulation. All right, we're going to go ahead and double click this, open it up, run multiple orders, and we want to start an activity diagram. And how you do that? Well, you need a start. Initial activity, let's move this over here to start this activity diagram. So we're dealing with actions this time and not activities. So we're going to bring over an action, drag and drop it. It is atomic. It's basic, it's empty. It's just a blank action, right? And then we want to draw a control from the start, control flow, hold down the left, let me do it slower, hold down the left mouse button, let go on the action or the element I want to draw the association or control flow to, let go, I want a control flow. I don't want any of these other choices, control flow. And that's how you do that, right? Then we want to bring in a merge, not a decision, we want to bring in a merge. Right, so we bring in a merge right here, and we want a control flow going to this merge, control flow. Very good. And the next thing we want is another action, which is set order status, and we'll put those names in just a moment. This time what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the element I want to draw from, model from, hold down that little arrow, let go. I want an action with a control flow. I'm going to choose normal, which is atomic, blank, and I'm going to hit that, OK. And now I've got my second action item, right? So start goes to action 1, merge goes to action 2. All right, so this first action, I can double click it here, and I can start typing in the name and any other content that I want. So this first action was set order count. I'm just going to hit enter. Set order count. All right. Now, if I select this action, I go to properties. Because it's an action, I have this dialog box that's open here. Let me drag and drop this right up here. And you can see that when I select start, it's not an action, it's an initial start. See, it's a start state node, sorry, state node type. So the state is start and it's activity and initial. I can give it any name I want, or I can just delete the name and have it be blank. But we're dealing with this one. So we are going to have sim as a construct, orders equals 10. And I'm going to have it cycle 3 times, so 3, right? So what I want to do is, let me do this first. I'm going to go ahead and select in here. And my effect is not showing in the element, as you saw in the other example. So you need to turn show effects and diagram on. So we're going to check that. Now when I come over there we go. Sim.orders equals 10, closing semicolon. And Sparx is pretty forgiving. If you forget the semicolon, it's not like you're coding in your development where it's not so forgiving. You get errors. Sparx is pretty forgiving, but once you get into practice, stay with it, right? So we're going to this merge node, and I'm going to leave merge node in here. They have it blank in the example, just to tell us this is a merge node and not a decision, right? Right, and for this next action, it was called set order status. So I go to element, and I can give that name here, set, and it's camel, no space, status, right? And then within that, it had an effect. And that effect was sim.order accepted, if I remembered correctly, equals, and then we're using this JavaScript function, math, floor, and then open paren, and this function, random function times 2, and then close paren before I forget, and then put that operator 1. There we go. Hopefully that my syntax is correct. And if it's not, I'm going to find out when I run this, right? And I want to show this effect in the diagram. So when I select out, you can see here, everything is showing that we need. So I want everything to be vertically aligned. So I select everything, right click on the one I want to align with, line center, vertically, there we go. All right, I am going to I'm going to lock it right here. Properties is going to be right here, right? So what I want to do next is I want an action in here for decrement. So it's atomic and it is decrement. And then I want a control flow from set order status. I want it here, right? And I want to have, if I select this, I go to action, I want an effect in here, sim.orders, and then I want a decrement. So minus, there we go. And I want to show so that I see it in there. All right. So let me go pan and zoom, make it fit. It's a little larger. There we go. All right. Now I have a control flow from here when it's looping through doing that decrement right to this merge, right? So I've got a flow there and I can clean the line up if I want to later, right? Now I'm going to go to browser. This next part is very important and where a lot of modelers make mistakes. So what I want to do is I want to run from this flow to process order, right? But I don't want to bring the process order in as a link. And a lot of people make mistakes bringing it in as a link, right? I want to bring it in as a invocation action, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete it and show you again, right? You do not want to bring the order activity in as a link, right? Let me go ahead and just do it. You want to bring the order activity in, drop as an action element. So invocation, we're invoking it, right? When we're running through. So go ahead and delete this from the diagram, and it's not deleted from the project, it's right there, right? And I want a control flow from here to this next model or simulation activity diagram we're going to run, all right? Now, I drew this line incorrectly. It needs to run from here. So just drag and drop the line, run there. Because if I would have run it, it would have gone here and it would never looped to the process order. And when we run the process order, we want to come back to it. So I fixed that. And I want this line to get out of the way. And there's two ways to do that. You can select anywhere in the association you want to break, hold down the control key, hit Q, look at that, and inserted a line break in there so I can do something like that. Another way to do that, let me undo, is to right click on this, go to line style, orthogonal square, and it puts the break in and it keeps the lines clean. And I can apply orthogonal square, this line style, in this diagram to every connection of the same. So now everything is orthogonal square, right? Now, let's see here. I want to put in a final, and I want to control from here to the final. I want a control flow, right? And I also want this orthogonal. It only did the ones I had at the time. This one is not orthogonal, but I'm not worried about it right now, right? So our first activity is almost done, but we need to put some guards in here in our flow, and we're going to do that next. All right, our first guard is going to be on this control flow that goes between process order and decrement, right? So I can double click on it and open up the property window, and I get the guard, and I can type the guard here, which is sim.orders, and then we're going to sim.orders, checking greater than or equal to 0, right? So that's our first guard. The other way to do a guard, and we want a guard here, is you'll notice in properties when we select the line, as soon as I select it, you see this property? For control flow, I have a place to enter my guard here. And I want sim.orders, you want to spell it the same, is less than 0. So we're checking for that as a guard, and we've got that guard in, right? And there we go so far. Now we can test this simulation right now, but there's nothing in the process order. And let's go ahead and run the simulation just to show that before we start building the other simulation, right? So we're going to run this simulation. You can see it's going through, ran through the, and then it went there and there's nothing going on. It's just coming right back. And it's going to do that, I think, 3 times because we set a counter of 3, and it should be done, right? Hopefully it's not going to be doing it infinitely. There, it's done, right? So you can test your simulations, your activity diagrams one at a time if you want, but I go do this so fast. I mean, we spent probably 10 minutes doing this. I can create this in less than 60 seconds, right? And you're going to get there as well. So let's get over to the next process. There's a couple of ways to do that. One, of course, I can find it over in my browser right here. Or 2, I can double click the action invocation. It invokes that activity and opens up the diagram for us, but there's nothing to run. And we're going to start building this activity next. Now this one we're going to do a little faster. We're going to bring in initial to start the activity. Have to have that in there to get started. And we're going to bring in some action. So we know that the first action, it's atomic, and it is receive the order. Receive order. Right? And if you fat finger it, the world's not going to come to an end, right? Then we're going into a decision this time, not a merge. We're going into a decision, right? And I'm just going to leave decision in there. So we need to go into a decision. Didn't mean to size that. And we're going to go into another action, which is atomic, and that's fill order. And then from fill order, we need to ship the order. And ship the order is not an action. It's an activity, all right? And it's going to be an activity inside as a child of the process order, all right? So we're bringing an activity, this time, ship order. And then later on, if we want to build a simulation or simulate shipping an order, we can build this out the same way we're doing this one and the other one in the future, right? So when we're filling an order, well, before we can ship the order, we're going to bring in an action. We've got to confirm or send an invoice, right? So send invoice, right? Lots of ways to do that, but we're not going to get into it. And we need another atomic, make payment, not shipping anything until people pay for it, right? So make payment. I'm going to double click in here because I remembered the last item. It knows it's atomic. Accept. I think they have accept payment. Usually I write payment acceptance. Right? So we have these that are taking place, and eventually we're going to get to a point where we need to close the order, and that's atomic action. So close order, all right? Always makes it easier when Sparx gives you an example to go from. Now you'll notice that if in order to go from fill order, make the payments, all this parallel processing to ship the order, I need a couple of joins or forks, and we're going to use the vertical fork, and we're going to put it one right here, and then we're going to need another one after I need a vertical, right? So we got a vertical in here, close, but before we close, we need a merge. We need to make a decision whether we're going to merge and close, or we're going to run all this processing around payment, filling the order, and shipping it. So we need to bring in a merge. And that's between the fork, this closing fork right here, or join, to this, which is going to lead us to a final, a close. So we know there's a control flow here. We know that there's a control flow here. So we're just dragging and dropping these in. It's a lot faster, right? When you're thinking through, maybe you have your requirements and you understand how things work. And we're doing a control flow from fill to this join, and then from this join to this activity control flow, and also from this join, we're running in parallel, send the invoice control flow here, control flow here, and control flow here. Now I want you to notice something. I'm going to do a control flow from this activity. Let me make this a little smaller. From here to this join, I don't see control flow in Sparx. And I'm not going to call it a bug, but it's not there. So what you have to do over in your tools, you'll notice you have activity relationships within your toolbar. And we're going to select control flow. We get the little hand. We're going to select ship order, hold down the mouse button, and drag it over to this join, and there we go, right? And then we've got a control flow from here to this merge, and we've got a control flow from the merge to close orders. But we also have a control flow from the decision to this merge, because, hey, we're going to cancel the order. We're not going to proceed, so we want to close the order, right? So all my lines are kind of funky. What I want to do is I want to right-click on this, line styles, orthogonal square, and then it gives me the ability to do some cool stuff with the lines, puts the breaks in there, makes it a lot easier for me. And then this one, if I start, let me move this up here, right? Make this orthogonal square. So I'm going to select the line that I just did, apply line style on this diagram to everything the same type, right? Now I got a little wonky here for a moment. Let's go ahead and set some things. There we go. And now I can set the lines the way that I want them. All right? The way that I want them. There we go. I want to keep this, and then I want this to do something like this. And how do my lines look? Pretty good? Good enough, right? So now we have finished this activity diagram, and we're almost ready to run our simulation. However, we need some guards. So we need a guard here, and we need a guard here. I'm going to double click on the line, open up the dialog properties. We're going to put the first guard here, which is sim, the construct, dot, order accepted. Remember, that was the value or the phrase that we used, and then is false. Semicolon, close, check my spelling. Yeah, everything's good. And we want a guard here. Double click on it, or I could do it over in properties like I showed you. Sim.order accepted. I wanted to make sure it wasn't plural. Accepted is true. So semicolon, close. And now we've got a guard here. And what I want to do is start cleaning up. Just move some things around. And that's what's nice about orthogonal, is it allows you to move things around and keep your lines fairly consistent. So that's good enough for this. Leave the decision in there and merge so that I know that those are right. And now I think we're ready to run this simulation, right? Now the first run is just going to be starting at this activity and going to this end. We're going to be in the Simulate tab, Dynamic Simulation. Select this, go ahead and run. So it's going to go through and it's going to stop because it doesn't know what to do. Order accepted, the results that came from this are not there. So let's do it this way. I'm going to go ahead and stop the simulation. And then what I'm going to do in the simulator, let me go ahead and click it this way. It's actually over in the lower right. There's tabs. They're right here. And what I'm going to do this time is from interpreted, I'm going to do manual. And let's run it. All right, we're going to test our model. So it's going to run through. It gets to this decision and it says, hey, do you want to go from the merge node to close, or do you want to go from the decision to fill order? And let's do the first one. We're going to close, runs through, it's done, right? Let's run it again. We're still on manual. Let me go to the tab, still on manual, run it again. It's going to get to the decision, it's going to stop. This time we want to fill order. Let's test it. Running through, everything's working fine, and there we go, it's done. Okay, this time we're going to go to the starting activity diagram, run our full simulation, all right, and give it a test. So simulation, I've got the tab already open right here. Let me just drag and drop this, and I want to snap it right here, right? So that's simulation events, simulator, I want to snap over the top, all right? So we're going to go ahead and start this. Let me shorten this up a little bit, move this over here. So I got plenty of room for the other one. And let's go ahead and start. All right, I still have it on manual. It should stop. No, it's not. Yep, it will. So it's stopping right here on the first run, 0. It didn't stop at the last one. You'll see that in a moment. And what we're going to do is we're going to fill the order. It's true. Run it through. We forced it true. Now it's coming into the merge and it's saying, hey, do you want to go to final and close, or do you want to run to decrement and go through another loop? And I'm going to final order and close, right? And it is done. This time we're going to change this back to interpreted, all right? And we're going to run this again. So click run. You could also click run up here and run simulation. So it's going through and it's using the randomizer to create a true or a false. And it'll take different ones depending on what's coming out, all right? So you can actually see what's taking place right here in this window. And if you had local, let me turn on call stack. You can see what's going on in the call stack as it's running through. And it's only going to do 3 times because that's what I have it set for. or you could turn on local variables. And if you pause at any time, you can see the local variables. So you can see the counter is now at 0 and the random results was false, so it would lead to a close. And we're going to go ahead and unpause and let it run through and do its thing. Right, running through one more time on 0, and it should stop after this one. Run through. There we go. The guard was less than 0 and it finalized. So that is how Spark EAExample order processing simulation works. How it was built, how it works, how it runs, and you do lots of cool stuff for your stakeholders by adding in content like this, explaining your models, and a lot more. So I hope this video was helpful for you. Please leave comments down below, good or bad. Questions are always great to have. Suggestions, absolutely awesome to have. I'm getting a lot of great suggestions coming in from the community. Thank you so much for that. So again, thanks for watching. Until we talk again, happy modeling.